All right, welcome back from that one. A KPMG report also projected that Nigeria's economy will grow by 2.6% in 2023, a considerable reduction from the World Bank's projection of 2.8% in 2023, and that the recent reforms from President Tinubu, such as fuel subsidy removal and unification of the FX market, will lower GDP growth in the country. To break this all down for us, we have international finance and economic analyst Mukhtar Mohammed joining me now. Good morning to you, Mukhtar. Okay, Mukhtar, can you unmute your device? We can't hear you.
Good morning, Johnson.
Yeah, good morning to you.
Justin, it's a problem. It's always a pleasure to be on your program. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Now, let's just dive straight into the business of the day. Now, specifically, KPMG's model suggests that the combined influence of fuel subsidy removal and foreign exchange liberalization may drive headline inflation to about 30% by December this year. What are your thoughts, really? It's as though we're actually just plummeting by the day. Well, how do you reason all of that?
Yeah, Justin, it's same that we've been doing. The policies are not working. We just, like I keep saying, we do copy and paste. We are not looking at the peculiarity of our inflationary pressure. We are thinking that our inflationary pressure is based on supply chain, but our inflationary pressure is not based on supply chain. Even if supply chain is a problem, but our inflationary pressure is based on exchange rate volatility. Until we address that volatility, we continue to see the rates goes up. So that's why I think for me, instead of the CBN always going high rate, cost of fund going up, cost of business going up, then non-performing loan going up by the day, we need to address the exchange rates. And if we do that, would drastically bring down inflation, because what is causing inflation is just the amount of things we import into the country, especially via the exchange rate. So that's what is driving up inflation. So we shouldn't keep deceiving ourselves. Even it's okay, even in local production. When you talk about local production, when you talk about transportation, the spare parts that are used from this campus are not manufactured here. They are brought from outside the shore of this country. When you talk about machines that are going to be used for most of these products, they are not made here. Even when they are made here, some of the parts are also imported into this country. They have to look for effects. So it's just we playing lip service to think, okay, the only way we can address inflation is to hike rate, copy and paste. Nigerian inflationary pressure is both micro, we have micro inflationary pressure, we have demand and supply inflationary pressure, and we have production induced inflationary pressure. When we talk about production, you know that cost of gas have gone on, especially diesel that is being used by these manufacturing companies, because the power is not stable for 24 hours. That is one. Then when you talk about microeconomy issues, you are looking at the labor forces. They're just complaining, we've increased fuel, you remove subsidy of petroleum product, their salary still remains in the same places, so they are still struggling to meet that. And then you talk about demand in inflationary pressure. That's where you come to see that a lot of Nigerians are demanding for FX that they can bring in a lot of product, and yet they are not having this level. So we should begin to pay attention to the FX challenge. And if we do that, if we're able to address that, we'll definitely bring down inflationary pressure. I'm not too worried about that. I think the pressure will come down towards first quarter of next year. Maybe a country of Ghana at the point was doing about 40% in terms of inflation rate. But today, they are about 35%, and they've not done as much economic rejigging like what we are doing. So definitely there's still hope, and I think there's still light at the end of the tunnel.
You've said it all. You talked about how we need to put our eyes on the FX rate, but over time now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has kept on increasing MPR each time it meets its MPC. And the report actually advised against raising lending rates again in favor of tackling problems with the supply chain. It talked about reducing the cost of energy and transportation, which you also alluded to, and enhancing local production. But then the CBN governor, Cardoso, has said that the central bank can bring growth through helping institutions and financial products to bolster emerging sectors of the economy, broadening the financial inclusion and uniting multilateral stakeholders to endorse government and private sector initiatives. Is that the right way to go, really?
Well, I think he's trying to look at their core mandate and he's trying to deal with their core mandate, and which for me, I think is good. What we saw in the last CBN administration, we saw the CBN that was doing both the physical and the monetary. But he's saying, look, we want to face our core mandate. We want to see how we can address inflation. We want to see how we can stable exchange rate. We want to partner with small and medium scale enterprise. But again, the partnership will be different from what we had before now. Remember, what we had before now is direct intervention, RX 200. Sometimes you don't even know which these companies are. So definitely, I think they are trying to, he's saying that, look, we must face our core mandate, which is all about bringing stability, especially in the financial space of the Nigerian economy. And I think it's good. But there could still be interventions, but those interventions will be done through the deposit money banks. I think so, rather than CBN directly intervening. Maybe you will go to a situation whereby those funds will be created in the deposit money banks, and people are able to access those funds based on the rates that will be given by CBN, and CBN will be able to monitor it. We've seen that happen in the mortgage sector. We've seen that happen in some sectors before, even if at the end of the day they were abused because of regulatory was compromised. So if we make sure we have a strong regulatory framework, it will be difficult for such policies to be compromised.
Okay, let me just quote what he said verbatim. He said there's a need to pull the central bank back from direct development finance interventions into more limited advisory roles that support economic growth. That's what he explained. And he went on to say that the bank will withdraw from directly funding these initiatives to more advisory roles in support of the government's economic agenda. The initiative goes contrary to what we saw with Godwin Emefiele, who had kept the Naira artificially strong and pursued unorthodox monetary policy by providing liquidity to money markets through intervention. So in your opinion, he's actually following the right steps?
Exactly. I think advisory is different from intervention. And again, you must know about advisory. Is not when you're in an advisory position, you are just only to advise. It now depends on the other people to take your advice. And like what you and I have been doing all these years, what your station has been doing, you've been advising government, you've been bringing out the experts to come and talk on issues that make correction to the economy. But it's not left for the government to take it. I remember a former minister, the former president Obasanjo said, as my advisor, your own is to advise. Don't bother whether I take it or not. So I think the CBN will advise well, but I think they should go a bit further in doing those advisory intervention, which I think they should be able to do, depending on the sector. And if this intervention can be done through the deposit money banks, it will be more professional than what we had before, whereby we have trader money, the former vice president going to Alaba market to begin to throw money at traders. And at the end of the day, you could not collect that money. We have the anchor borrowing scheme. A lot of politicians hijack it. Instead of for farmers, it became a political tool for the politics. So we've seen all of these things come up, and it has not really augured well for the economy. I think that is why he's saying, look, let's maintain our core mandate. Let's advise the government. And the advisory part also could be in terms of policy. CBN comes up with the policy of the monetary policy and advise the fiscal side that with this our policy, if you do this and do that, I think the impact will be felt on the people. And which is better, which CBN generally all over the world do. They are independent of what happened in the physical side, but they tend to come to be a synergy, either in terms of economic intervention through bringing down rate or hiking rates. And then the physical side will balance it up so that the generality of the people, of the citizens, doesn't suffer.
All right, before we move to talk about Nigerians living off credits, let's talk about one angle that the KPMG report mentioned, which you actually addressed in passing, but I just want us to talk about it a bit. The report suggested the reduction of cost of energy and transportation and enhancing local production. How do we go about the transportation angle, because it still runs pari passu with the high energy cost? What do we have in our hands?
Well, that's why the government said they are going to do that intervention with the
We haven't seen the CNG buses, Mukhtar.
They will come. They will come.
You're a man of faith, aren't you?
I think the Lagos State government is saying they might be the first to launch those buses.
Okay.
They will come. They will come. Hopefully, they will come. And then again, I'm hopeful that those buses will come. But again, when those buses come, we shouldn't expect a 360-degree turnaround immediately. And we hope to see where these buses, because sometimes these buses come in, they're only in the urban cities, they're not in the rural cities. The rural areas are where they really need those buses to bring down the cost of goods and services, especially food items. So when these buses come, are they going to come only in buses that will transport people who have trucks also being dispersed to the rural area, whereby they can bring their goods at a cheaper rate compared than what they are doing now? So the bus will come, and again, let's see what they will do with it. Rising energy costs is a global challenge for every economy as it stands now, especially with the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Also, that has also had an impact on energy costs. It's a global challenge, and each country is trying to address those challenges with their own indigenous means of it. So we need to look inwardly, and one of the CBNG, the CABN, is it the CBG buses? Hopefully, this bus should come up on time. Remember, it was part of the agreement they have with Labour.
Yeah.
Labour is even still now saying, look, we are not seeing the buses, we've
Even
not gotten
striking.
our salary agreement, and so we are going on strike. So maybe that also will force the government to give us more detail of what exact will we have these buses, because these are not rocket science. These buses are in the countries you want to import it, unless you are saying you don't have the resources, and the government have not told us they don't have the resources for it.
Right. Okay, let's move on now and discuss about how Nigerians have been coping with the economic hardship. According to reports, consumer credit, which includes personal and retail loans, increased by 12.2% from 2.35 trillion naira in the first quarter of this year to 2.64 trillion naira by the second quarter. That's about 290 billion naira in 3 months. Mukhtar, a report by SBM Intelligence highlighted that 27% of Nigerians across various income categories are turning to loan apps to sustain their living expenses amidst the inflationary challenges. Where are we headed, Mukhtar?
Ordinary, Justin, this should be good news to the economy, because we are truly a capitalist country. We are driven by credit system. You begin to have credit to meet consumer index, and once we're a consuming economy, we shouldn't forget about that. That's our strength, and that is why when you are into the consuming economy, your key sector, your manufacturing sector, seems to be the key drivers of the economy, and that could help the economy grow ordinarily. But again, you talk about the loan shark or the loan sharks, the way, the kind of policy, the kind of charges they charge Nigerians in borrowing, because some of these borrowing are not the conventional normal borrowing that you have from banks. If all this borrowing were driven through the financial space, whereby that means that a lot of Nigerians has jobs, by those jobs, they're able to take loan and then pay those salaries with good and consumer price. That's how developed economy in the world moves. They move by credit system. So that means there's a lot of credit in the system. And when you have a lot of credit in the system, that is where mopping up liquidity helps the economy to grow. But when you don't, the kind of credit we have now is an unauthorized, there's some unregistered credit loans company harassing Nigerians, giving them money 20,000 and paying almost 100,000 for borrowing of 20,000. I think those are part of the thing the government should address. But those that are borrowing for the right financial institution, those are those that are in the formal sector, where their salary has to pass through this institution. But those ordinary Nigerians in the informal sector that needs it to meet to the day-to-day living are not able to access it. And when they access it through the loan shark, it's always very difficult for them, because these people come for them and sometimes even embarrass them by sending messages to their loved ones through a lot of to cause embarrassment and shame to them. So I think we should, the government should look at this, but ordinarily, this should be good news for the economy when you have about a lot of Nigerians able to borrow.
I want to understand that part. It is good. It should be good news if it's actually the formal system like you have mentioned. But right now, what it seems is as though it's not really, it's like a financial mismatch per se, because ordinarily, if you earn a particular amount of money, you can actually project that of your income for the next 5 months or 6 months. I should be able to buy a car, so I could just do credit. But this time around, they're borrowing because their income or their salaries or wages, as it were, cannot even meet their monthly expectations.
Exactly, Justin. It's still the same thing we are saying, maybe in a different way. Once you see what makes the developed nation develop, is the credit system. I mean, where you are able to borrow as when you want to do to meet your basic needs, and you are able to pay based on your income. So borrowing in itself should not be done arbitrarily. Borrowing is automatically done based on your income.
Yeah.
But like I said, we've had an orthodox way of borrowing through this borrowing this loan shark
Loan
that
sharks, yeah.
attempt to exploit Nigerians. I think that is what the government should do, and I think the government is about now addressing those challenges, getting some of this out of the Nigerian technological space. So definitely, but if you look at those that are borrowing from those that are working in the formal sector, that are borrowing from the real institutions, that has also helped the bottom line of the institution, especially if they are still in job when they are borrowing, and if they are still in job and be able to pay this money. So it's good for the economy when it comes to credit.
All right, we'll just leave it at that. Just hopefully we'll get our acts right, and we'll get the right credit system that we need to see in our country, so that actually things like mortgages and or the asset financing can be done easily. Thank you so much, Mukhtar, for your time.
My pleasure, Justin. Thank you for having me.
You're
Have a
welcome.
pleasant day.
All right. And that's the size of the show for today. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for being a part of the show. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.